Hey Allison, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. Are you feeling better?
So much better. Yes, thank you. I'll
That's
probably still cough, but
that's
yeah. What
okay.
would be most helpful today?
I would love to talk about marketing strategies for one of my group offers.
Yes. Okay, let's do it.
So I run 3 monthly clinical supervision groups for
Hmm.
predominantly for pre-licensed or provisionally licensed social workers and counselors in Colorado.
Okay.
We do, however, like I would say maybe 20% of the people who participate are fully licensed and stay on as ongoing ed.
Hmm.
Um, Colorado also has like something written into their ongoing education statutes and regulations that 20 of your continuing education hours, which is half of the hours we need for licensure, every 2 years can come from like spaces like this. So
Amazing.
it's like mutually beneficial. Um,
Hmm.
we cap the groups at 10 participants per group. And I right now we've been sitting at about like 7 or 8 participants at each group for about 6 or so months. And
Hmm.
I'd love to chat through what I've been doing and see if you have insights on what I can do to kind of like boost momentum.
Yes, love it. Let's do that.
Okay. So I regularly blog
Hmm.
about clinical supervision, about group supervision, about the benefits of learning communities, about topics related to supervision or clinical practice. Um, and that's probably, I mean, I would say at least like 4 or 5 blogs a month
Hmm.
dedicated to that. So like that's pretty robust and beefy. Um, I also work with like an SEO organization that helps kind of optimize my some of my blog posts per month. Um, my website traffic is pretty good. I also contract with a local university and provide like liaison support to MSW students in their final year of school as kind of like a bridge support. Um, and then collect all of their emails and add them to my distribution list. I
Hmm.
also have an email list that I email once a week. And that's generally like also related to clinical topics. Um, I am a part of several like Facebook groups for the state, but don't do like a ton of Facebook marketing for this just because like Facebook groups are like kind of messy. So I'll like pick up leads, but I'm not necessarily like soliciting things on there.
Right, right. Hmm. It's a nice way to put it. Facebook groups are
Yeah.
messy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, I think that's the majority of what I'm doing right now.
are your groups generalist groups or thematic?
Great question. So they are generalist groups. So we structure them. They're 2 hours a month. The first hour is dedicated to like a clinical topic, and the second hour is dedicated to case consultation.
Hmm. Okay.
So the topics rotate, but they're generally related to either like modalities, theories, issues in practice. Um, every 6 months or so, we poll the group or we do like a survey, we get feedback from people, and we ask them about topics that they're interested in, and we integrate those things into future group topics.
Okay, amazing. So, where or how did most people who were in there find this group?
Yeah, so most people found the group through probably my Psychology Today listing that
Hmm.
has the group listed on there. And then like by way of that through my website.
Hmm.
So the Psychology Today listing is pretty much like feeding people into my website, and then people are contacting me through the website.
Okay, great. And it sounds like people are staying, like they're finding
Yeah,
benefit in the group.
for sure.
So, I think the only thing you haven't talked about that I think would could be like great for getting folks in the door is like encouraging the people in there to invite their friends.
Yeah.
How does
So
that
using
feel?
them as like it feels fine. I mean, I've like considered that or played around with that. I've also done some like soft plugs for that in group where I'll say, we've got 3 spots open in this group. If you have anyone who's interested, like please share information with them about it. Um, but part of me knows that that's a little too soft and not necessarily like action oriented enough for folks to incentivize that.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you have other ideas on how to do that.
Yeah, I might just be really direct and be
Yeah.
like, y'all know I run a few of these groups and I love
Mhm.
them. They're what
Mhm.
I love spending the majority of my
Mhm.
work time thinking about and doing.
Yeah.
I would love to have another whole group,
Yeah.
but I need to fill these first.
Yeah.
If you have a friend that you'd like to refer,
Mhm.
um, and maybe you don't want them in your group, that could be a thing. Then
Totally.
know that we have two other groups that have a couple spots each.
Okay.
And I might like open the group with this like
Mhm.
announcement, and just make the ask.
Okay.
Because I mean, I know you love this.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they can feel that you love this.
Yeah. Right. Our retention rates are great.
Amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
like the fact that people are staying post licensure and they're like, I get much more out of this than I would some CE that I like have to sit there at my computer for or whatever,
Yeah.
like it's much more valuable. And the fact that in Colorado you can get CEs for it, I mean, that's where I'd get all the CEs I could personally.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
it's we spend a lot of time marketing supervision towards people who aren't yet licensed, but I think that's a second way that we could come at this is like fully licensed people getting their CEs through something that's so much more excuse me, personalized.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and has like a community aspect to it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great idea. So because I agree with you. I think like I've got a pretty good pulse on what like what the client journey is, on what gets people into my group. And it's not people that are like, it's not social workers that are straight out of grad school. Sometimes it is counselors that are straight out of grad school. Um, but it is really like the bang for the buck is really in folks that are already licensed and are looking
Mm-hmm.
for like an ongoing community, an ongoing learning community to support their clinical practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
When you're doing all that you're doing, like talking about like when you're posting in the Facebook groups when
Mhm.
they're not so messy, um, in your email list, like are you messaging it as like, yes, you can get supervision hours for this, but a
Yeah.
large percentage of our people are fully licensed and getting continuing ed hours for this.
Yeah. So I started that um I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago on just kind of like noticing that because we've had people who have entered the group fully licensed. And prior to that, I just had folks that like completed their supervision hours and stayed in the group. And so I'm like, oh, like people in private practice, people who are working in like large systems like the VA or other places where like they might get some supervision or consultation in their workplace, but since COVID, that's shifted a lot, or like they're just looking to kind of stay current on things that are happening outside of their like workplace culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, yeah, I did start to pivot that and started like, even when people were posting things in other Facebook groups that like weren't Colorado specific, I'm like, you can join us too, right? Like, if you're not
Mm-hmm.
looking for like clinical supervision hours for your Colorado license, like you can still join us as an out of state person,
Mm-hmm.
um, but haven't done anything like targeted to like the value of ongoing education in community based learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just thinking about how you could leverage how lonely it is in private
Mm-hmm.
practice.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that when we get kind of stuck in private practice, we don't, most of us, and we do, like we all get stuck sometimes, clinically, then you have people to go to. It's already in the books. So you could do some of that messaging.
Yeah. Last year, I opened up a like a private Facebook group for people who are actively in group with me, and then also people who like have graduated out or have chosen not to continue. Um, and it's like it's fairly active, but it's a place where people will like swap referrals or ask questions or share resources. And so like even between supervision meetings, like there is still access to that community and to like the larger community. So not just the 10 people that you're used to
Right.
meeting with every month.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just like some more consistency with that messaging. Like, so either longer term than you've done it so far, or multiple times in a week when you have the opportunity, like if it's in your blog, if you're talking about it in your email, if
Yeah.
you're like responding on a Facebook group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that could, because you're so close, right? Like you're so
So
close to
close.
being
Yeah.
full.
Yeah.
That I think it could really boost that and get it to exactly where you want it.
It's also like, I mean, similar to marketing for your private practice, it's one of those things that like you kind of always have to market for
Mhm.
because it like seasonally, right? Like people drop off or people take breaks, or like you always kind of want to have some folks in the pipeline,
Mhm.
or at least you want to always be generating interest so that when spots do open up, you have an audience that you can tap for people who have been on the fence.
Right.
Um, and so like I know that that's I'm just curious if there are like interval things or like scheduled things that I should be considering doing so I'm not, like once a month I do blah blah blah, or like to kind of not necessarily automate it but like structure it in a way that it is really targeted and focused.
Uh-huh.
Um
Well, tell me about your emails that you send out. What's the structure of those?
Yeah, so those are typically like one topic per week. There's like, they're not necessarily like newsletter type things. They're just like, here's a thought. Um, and so, like my most recent email that I sent out this week was about, like my three non-negotiables, right? So like one, I clean my kitchen every night before I go to bed so I don't wake up to like chaos. Two, I connect with a friend every Friday just to make sure that I'm staying connected with folks. And then three, when I work with new supervisees or new supervisees join my group, I make sure to meet with them first so that we can do like a vibe check, right? So
Mhm.
I'm just like, that's an example of like one of the emails would be like a
Mhm.
little bit about me, but then also like what it feels like to start working with me.
And is there a call to action at the end of that?
Yeah. So it's typically like schedule a consult with a link to
Mhm.
check out and see if this feels like a good fit for you.
Yeah. So I might do kind of like a double CTA, which I don't usually recommend. But it could be, if you're not currently in one of our
Yeah.
consultative groups, like click here to hop on a call and see if it's a fit.
Uh-huh.
If you are, and you already know how amazing it is and the growth you've had as a result, I'd love for you to refer a friend.
Got
You
it.
can send them this link.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can definitely like start integrating that into my calls to action, both for like emails and blog posts.
Mhm.
Um, I yeah, that's great. I Part of me has been like, do I need to incentivize people referring friends? But I don't necessarily like feel like I need to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Then don't.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I think you just need to make the ask because people
Yeah.
are already getting such value.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and it's not the kind of thing where they're going to be like, oh, if I refer, like sometimes in our business, we get people who are like, I don't want to refer my friend to
Yeah,
Abundance because then there'll be competition, you know,
totally, totally.
which as we all know, competition isn't
Right.
a real thing.
There's
But
plenty of work for everyone.
yeah, but I don't think that's the kind of issue that you would have because everybody would
No.
like therapists to feel supported and feel
Yeah,
more competent and all of that.
totally.
So,
Totally. The other thing that I we've noticed or I've noticed like an influx of is like K-12 school people coming in for supervision. So school counselors, school social workers that are looking to get their clinical license just as an opportunity to like move out of schools or have options or whatever it might be. And prior to now, everything has been kind of like you pick the day and time that works for your schedule, and we're not kind of like targeting or focusing based on topic or based on workplace. Because I think folks that work in schools specifically, and this is true in like other large systems too that are not necessarily clinically focused, is that when they're all together, like they just talk about how things influence their current workplace. They have a hard time kind of like looking outside of that scope. So I've been hesitant to create like a school-based group, but also know that for folks that aren't working in school, like there's just stuff that doesn't translate for people. And so like from a marketing perspective, is there benefit to kind of like creating targeted focus or like identity-based groups for folks?
I think there could be, but my only fear with that is it gets so insular.
Yeah.
And
100%.
so I wonder if kind of spreading them out amongst the other groups might be more helpful. And I think, do you already have a blog post about that transition specifically for school people? Awesome. And did they like SEO the heck out of it?
They SEO'd the heck out of it. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, good. Good. So I might, if you want more of those folks kind of sprinkled in, then I would maybe write another blog post.
Okay.
It could get SEO to help them find it. I might write a blog post that's SEO heavy on like getting CEs. So that you're getting like some more fully licensed people in there.
That's a great idea. So
Uh-oh, you froze.
You're frozen. So
here we are. Okay. Hi.
Okay. So doing some like more targeted blog posting too about like the benefits of ongoing education and how folks can continue their ed. God damn.
Yeah. And I think like people don't get as excited about ongoing education, for instance, right? Versus CEs you actually learn from.
Sure.
Or like the community aspect of like what Group Soup provides. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that gives me some really good direction.
Good.
Okay. Because I just started to think about like bigger ways to bring new folks in, right? Like every once in a while we have a guest speaker come in. And we don't do that a ton because again, it's like it kind of takes away from like the community aspect of why we're meeting and like some other stuff, but I could see the value in it, right? So of like having a med provider come in, having someone who specializes in something like specific come in. We've got a naturopath coming in December. And so like even thought about kind of breaking those out, taking them out of the like supervision days and spaces, so like having a like one Tuesday a month where we have a guest speaker and folks can pay like half of what their group supervision rate is to come to that, and using that as kind of like a feeder for new people to try before they buy. And like what I can't figure out is that if that is creating like more work than it's worth for me.
Right. I was going to say like that's a lot of coordination.
It's a lot of coordination.
And I don't think you need it.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think just making the ask is going to get you where you want to be.
Okay.
I'm thinking about like so we've talked about the school people, we've talked about the folks who are in like done with their license, but like getting
Mhm.
CEs for it. You mentioned the folks in the VA who are in these
Mhm.
systems, where they're not getting the full support that they're looking for.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if like I know some people have contracts with like community mental health,
Mhm. Mhm.
where community mental health will be the one paying them for the group soup, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, I think if you wanted to have a fourth group, maybe that would
Mhm.
be beneficial to look into that. I don't think you're going to need it if you make the ask, but and I'll say too, making the ask now is going to be a lot more iffy than if you make the ask in January when
Yeah.
people aren't contending with the holidays and everything else on their list.
Totally.
Like I think you could mention it, but I would
Mm.
like hard launch that in January when,
Okay.
yeah, when
Yeah.
they're back online with work, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, life feels less chaotic for
Yeah.
sure. Okay. Yeah, that's a great idea. So I'll do like just a mini plug in December and then I'll go for it both like email blog and face-to-face time when I'm meeting with folks in groups on kind of referring colleagues and friends.
Yeah. And since you're getting a lot from Psychology Today, are you like, is that couched as a supervision group or a consultation
Mhm.
group?
So I think I'd have to check because I haven't looked in a while. But I think it's both. Like I think I say like clinical supervision and consultation group.
So what I might do is have a clinical consultation group listing and a clinical supervision group listing.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm.
And then when you're in the conversation with them, you can explain that it's, there are people at various,
Right.
yeah. And that
Okay.
way, because I can imagine myself, like if it says supervision, I'm less likely to click on it and learn more
Totally.
at this
Totally.
stage of my practice.
Mm-hmm.
But if it says consultation, I'm definitely more apt to click on it.
Yeah, for sure. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Yeah. So diversifying both of those. What about should I do I need to do that on my website also, or just keep them kind of
I think
together?
you can keep them together on your website. Let me think through. So if they're on Psychology Today and they click through, I might test it for a little while. I might spread them out, not during the holidays, because that's going
Mhm.
to be weird,
Yeah.
weird data. But
Yeah.
I might have a supervision group and a consultation group, and you could literally have almost the same copy, not exactly the same because we don't want Google to get mad at you,
Yeah.
but nearly the same copy, and then you could like explain it in the conversation, essentially.
Yeah. 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 For sure. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I think that, yeah, I can work on building that out for January and seeing because I think you're totally right in that like I also wouldn't necessarily be looking for a supervision group, but I'd be like 100% on board for a consultation group.
Yeah,
Like there's
yeah,
this weird block for us as
yeah,
seasoned professionals.
yeah. And with the consultation page, you could really dive into the CEs
Mm-hmm.
because like
Mm-hmm.
not everybody knows that.
Right.
And I mean, gosh, I wish we had that in North Carolina because I would eat it
Yeah.
up. But alas,
Alas.
Colorado's ahead of us as usual.
Just in like some things, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'll definitely do that because I have not, like, there's been occasional blog posts where I've done that, but like, this would be a place to really like drill down on that and the
Yeah,
importance of that
yeah.
and like the cost effectiveness of that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay. Cool. That's super helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I can't wait to hear how it goes in the new year.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Okay.
Sure. All right. Well, I'll see you soon then.
Okay. Bye, Allison.
Bye.